There's a lot of very dedicated people.
I think you just hinted at one of the easiest analogies, who's at the table.
Like my dad said, law can always be worth more than you're being paid.
We're gonna have 30,000 more people here in the next 10, 12 years.
I am optimistic that we'll continue moving in the right direction.
And that takes finding people that wake up every day and they're thankful and they believe they can change the world.
We have two incredible guests here. We're joined by Jared, and can you pronounce your last name?
Pantella.
Pantella and Christine Coffin. Thank you both for joining us today. I'm really excited about this. Even before I moved here, Oregon State University, Cascades, was in discussions about coming to Bend, and it's playing an increasingly dynamic and important role in our community. And I'm really excited to learn more about what's in the works, and really how it connects to the future of our built environment and our, the culture here in Central Oregon. And so let's start with each one of you. Christine, you're the Director of Communications and Community Engagement over at Oregon State University, correct?
I am, yes.
Wonderful. And Jared, you're leading the capital planning over at the OSU-Cascades?
Exactly right.
Wonderful. So your responsibility is more in the line of kind of envisioning, the future built environment of Oregon State. And Christine, you're more about really, you're a key voice in connecting the story to the broader community, correct?
Exactly.
Okay,
yes.
Wonderful. So, but before we get into each one of your pillars too narrowly, I would love to hear kind of about your origin story, why you're sitting here today, how you got to our community, and then, the connection to your current roles at OSU. So would either of you like to start?
I'm excited to hear Christine's.
All right.
Christine, perfect. So,
I'll
yeah.
start.
So what brought you to Bend or Central Oregon?
Well, it's probably a story that you've heard many times before. I came here on vacation.
Absolutely.
I had been living and working in DC,
Okay.
and I came with friends to the Sisters Folk Festival, and we all had a great time, and there were a couple of us who were kind of at the same stage in our life and careers, and we started thinking, well, what would life look like here? And
How long ago was this?
so this was in 2017.
Okay.
2007.
Okay.
2007.
Yeah.
So two of us came back on we called it a reconnaissance trip.
Yeah.
And what really struck me was we met with people in our fields, and nobody said no. Everyone said, oh, that's interesting. Why don't you talk to this person? Why don't you talk to this person? And just that yes, and the willingness to open doors, really, that felt so generous, and it felt like a place that I wanted to be. And so I moved over here and volunteered with the Bend Film Festival and did some consulting work with Visit Bend and with EDCO. And then this position came about. So in 2008, I started working at OSU-Cascades. So my LinkedIn anniversary just came up yesterday. It's been 17 years.
Oh my goodness.
And I have to say that we're growing fast enough and evolving in very dynamically that it feels like a new job every year.
Yeah.
There's new people, new programs, new built environment to tell stories about. So it's been, I feel really lucky to be where I am. And I think a lot of us who work there feel the same way.
Well, that must be satisfying to see the progress of what that university has done in that timeline.
And when I think about it, at the time when I first started working with OSU Cascades, we were located on the COCC campus in one building. We had, just a matter of a couple of 100 students.
Yep.
And it was really Becky Johnson, who was then her title was vice president of the campus, who came, and she heard what the community wanted and really accelerated that. It had been a 30-year vision of the community. They wanted a 4-year comprehensive university campus here, and
Yep.
She really led that charge.
That's wonderful. When I first tried to describe what Bend was, I fell in love with Bend about the same time you did. And when I tried to explain to people back in Colorado what Bend was, and I was like, well, imagine Boulder without the 4-year university. and I've lost that exclusion at this point. But yeah, it's now we have this big, beautiful 4-year campus underway here, and we'll get more into the details here in just a minute. Jared, How'd you find Bend? How'd you find Central Oregon?
Well, I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio originally, and moved out to Portland. High-tech sector kind of brought me out in about 2000, worked in the high-tech sector in Portland for 7 or 8 years, and then moved over to Boise for a couple of years and went to Boise State University to get my bachelor's degree. And
Are
really,
you a Broncos fan?
yeah, absolutely. But I think really that time at Boise State and seeing the growth of the university while going through and getting my degree in construction management really was transformational for me in particular. Coming from Ohio, you can throw a tennis ball and hit a university from anywhere. They're just everywhere across the state and across the Northeast. And so to go to Boise State, realizing that there wasn't a university around Boise for a good distance, it was the only game in town. And luckily it was there. So then, and fast forward from that, went to Portland for another 8 years and worked in the high-tech sector, did construction up there. And then kind of similar, we had come down to Bend a number of times and we were looking at starting a family and thinking about where we wanted to be. And then I saw that OSU was going to start a campus here and really move off the COCC campus and saw that in the newspaper, and then went over to the pumice mine and kind of stood on the edge of it and just looked at that vast open hole in the ground and thought, it's a crazy idea to make a university out of this, and I want to do that. And
Pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
And for those that haven't physically put eyes on it, this space is located in West Bend, Southwest Bend, right in the heart of our community, and was previously not only a pumice mine, but it was a landfill, right?
Right, a construction and demolition landfill. Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
and I mean the ambition to try to turn that into a 4-year university was, that was an audacious thought, but what an opportunity that came with it, right? I mean,
Exactly.
where else do you get? How many acres do you have right now?
128 acres.
128 acres in the heart of a community that's undeveloped.
Yeah, yeah, and so I'm just that challenge of that's the kind of thing that I end up being drawn to, and waited for that position to come open, applied for it, and it's been exciting to work through changing that 128 acres, reclaiming the pumice mine, remediating the landfill, and then setting up that long-term vision for the campus. It's a really exciting piece.
Yeah, so while we're on this, let's get a definition of kind of your role and how, your elevator pitch and what you do and what's the main initiative that you're working on right now.
I wish there was a main initiative. That would be really nice. But overall, day-to-day, my job is anything from looking out 10 to 20 years and thinking about, where all the buildings will go on campus, what the capacities of those buildings are, and then how do those translate to sewer capacities and electrical capacities, talk to the power company, make sure they're going to have power for us for the next 40 years, think about our sustainability goals and how do we incorporate those into the campus design, and then what elements are needed to make sure that we can effectively communicate all of that master plan to suppliers who work with us. So I don't do all of that myself. There's actually a number of suppliers who help us with all that, but kind of putting all that together and bringing it together. And then, submitting that over to the state legislature for support, or working with donors to understand what we're doing and the vision for what we're doing. That's one of the exciting parts to me is just how many different things I touch in a given day.
Well, so often people are used to university being this long growth over 100 years in the same location and slow development over time. Is there really a precedent that we could all, acknowledge or understand that's similar to the ground up development of a huge 4-year campus like we're seeing here in the middle of Bend?
It doesn't happen very often nationally. I think UC Merced is probably one of the most common ones. I'm sorry, which one? UC Merced.
Merced, okay.
And I believe that was on the order of like a $1 billion investment from California. And they built that out over the course of like 6 years through a public-private partnership. So that's like on steroids, right? The way we're growing is probably a building every 2 to 4 years. And that'll probably slow down a bit for a little while as well, as our overall kind of growth stabilizes. But to get the campus off the ground, to have kind of all the standard things you would have on a campus like the Health and Recreation Center, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly.
Yep.
To have all those kind of standard things that help to surround a student with the support necessary to maximize the overall growth of every student, but then also maximize graduation rates, I think is key.
Christine, I poorly paraphrased your role, but could you explain kind of what your role is and what's the primary story or initiative that you wish to bring forward right now?
Yeah, so I'm Director of Communications and Community Engagement.
Okay.
So a lot of what I do is serve as the conduit to tell the stories of the campus and its people to external audiences. And so externally, it might be prospective students, parents, community members, donors, alumni, etc. So a lot of times I'm working with an expert like Jared, and they help me understand the complexity of what they do in simpler terms, so that somebody like me, a lay person, can understand it, and then I can then convey that externally.
Okay.
So I'll often say to Jared, talk to me like I'm a fourth grader.
Yeah.
I've actually said that to him, and so he helps me understand. But it's not only Jared; it's also I work with our faculty, our researchers, our students, and even our alumni, and really interview them, and then tell their stories and get them out across all of the platforms, social media, and on the website. And it's actually not just me. I work with a really talented team. We have a graphic designer, a videographer and photographer, and then we are all work in a team with I can never remember his title. It's Chief of Marketing and Community Relations or Community Engagement, something like that. So. So we make sure that we tell our stories visually. We tell them, in writing. We tell them on the website. We tell them on social media.
Wow. So you've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
When someone comes up to you and say, "What's going on at OSU?" Where do you start?
Yeah. It's I think it depends on who they are, but I think that the work that Jared and his team are doing is really exciting. This transformation of a demolition landfill and a pumice mine into a thriving university campus. I mean, who else can tell that story? It's just incredible. And then when you wrap that around the net zero energy, water, and waste goals that we're pursuing, that's exciting too. But then there are also stories about some of the projects that students are doing. Like before the camera started rolling, we talked about Snowplanks Academy. Yeah. So
let's fill that in. I think that's an exciting story.
It's truly exciting. So Snowplanks was a snowboard company in town. The founders of the company were ready to move on to another project. They're each entrepreneurs, and they had spoken in business classrooms and were really inspired by the students who came up afterwards and asked questions and wanted to intern with them, and were giving them resumes, wanted to work with them. And when they were ready to do something with Snowplanks, they decided to gift it to OSU-Cascades. So that was about 18 months ago. The snowboard company is now incorporated into the university. It's run and managed by students. There are faculty mentors who, really, help them make sure that students are taking the right classes so they understand about supply chain management and marketing and the engineering, and the design and the graphic design. And so it's about 30 students who are working on this snowboard project. They produced their first snowboards this past fall, learned a lot, and they're now starting to work on the next winter's snowboards. And they've got a new project now where they're designing a women's snowboard, and they're actually working with our kinesiology program. We have a biomechanics lab on campus, and so they're understanding how women's their center of gravity is different, their feet size are different compared to their body, and which means the board needs to be designed, it's a different shape, and so the students are so excited, and the types of skills they're building for their resumes is
Incredible.
really amazing. Yeah, they're going to be job ready when they graduate.
I would think so. I mean, I assume there's not a precedent for a university to own a snowboard company.
No, it's one of the only ones that, in fact, we couldn't even find other businesses that were run by students within a university. There are certainly businesses within universities, but not run by students that we could find anyway.
What a great story that just kind of exemplifies the university, where you're going with innovation, and then just kind of the community, you know, like you said, even from when you first got here, the integration and accessibility for wanting to get people involved. I mean, a business donating their business to the university. What a cool connection.
Yeah, and that's kind of demonstrates the community engagement that OSU-Cascades has kind of always had, and you know, we try and nurture that for sure.
Before we get too far away from it, what is the timeline of Oregon State? COCC, which is Central Oregon Community College, has had a long, beautiful history with Central Oregon as well. They've been around for a long time. What, 100 years? I mean,
I believe it's 75 years.
75 years, okay. And when did OSU show up on the scene, and when, you know, what was the first engagement with Oregon State University and Central Oregon or Bend?
Well, OSU-Cascades opened in 2001, but prior to that, Oregon State University was offering classes in you know, various locations in town, and so the classes were offered. They weren't serving the higher educational needs of the community, and so the legislature in 1999 provided funding to start OSU-Cascades. At that time, it offered the funding to provide, it was kind of a university center where there were other universities were offering degrees under the OSU-Cascades umbrella. So University of Oregon degrees were offered there too.
Okay.
That wound up being confusing to students, confusing to the community, and gradually the other universities, it just wasn't sustainable. They fell away.
Okay.
And as of about 2000 and, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's probably like 2011, 12, we have been solely an Oregon State University campus.
Okay, and some of those early classes, early buildings from the early 2000s, this was a few buildings near the Old Mill District, correct? Weren't those up off of just above the Deschutes Brewery there?
Correct, and we actually still own one of those buildings, which is we call it the Graduate and Research Center.
Okay, but there was no campus to speak of prior to what's going on right now.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And so the campus opened in 2016. So we're coming up on 10 years. Okay,
so here we are, 2025, spring 2025. How many students are engaged with this physical campus we have here in Bend?
There are about 1,300, a little over 1,300 students.
Okay.
I'd say about 20% of them are graduate students. The rest are undergraduate students.
Okay.
And we have about 25 majors and 25 undergraduate majors and 3 graduate programs and 1 doctorate program.
Oh, you have 3 graduate and a doctorate program. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's amazing. I would assume that the ratios of, you know, for the class sizes and accessibility to professors, things like that are probably all exceptional given the small size.
Yeah, I wish I went to OSU-Cascades because I was in huge lecture halls and, you know, the faculty member didn't know if I was there or not.
Yep.
But it's about a 9-to-1 ratio of students to faculty.
Okay.
And so, you know, faculty, they know your name, they know your dreams, and there we often hear about those mentor relationships that are developed over time. And that's all kind of surrounded by the quality of an Oregon State University education and degree program. And it's quite something that the powerhouse research university in Oregon that you can take, that you can be in such a small environment with with a researcher, with a faculty member. It's really our students get quite an education.
Let's talk about kind of the sustainability focus of this new built university and how it's going to be different than anything we've seen prior.
I think one of the things that was exciting to me coming here 6+ years ago was seeing that the university had set up a long-range development plan with a lot of input from the community along the 2014, 15, 16 timeframe. And that long-range development plan had highlighted the goals of being a triple net zero campus, so net zero energy, net zero water, and net zero waste.
I haven't heard that term before. Triple net zero is net zero energy, net zero waste, net zero water.
Right.
Okay.
And so in 2020, so that just set the goal. It didn't set a pathway to get there.
Okay.
So in 2020, we started we worked with a couple of consultants to set up an energy master plan for the campus. So what is the pathway to us achieving a net zero energy campus? And so with that, about 2021, we finished that. That helped us understand how we would provide energy for the first building that was built after that. In 2021, we finished Ray Hall. And so Ray Hall was the first building connected to our open loop geo exchange that pulls water out of the aquifer down below Bend. And then that water comes out about 50 degrees. We can use that water as a heat source or heat sink for our chiller, which is basically a heat pump. Just like the heat pump sits outside of your house and it makes your house warm on really, really cold days. Our chiller does the same thing for the campus. It makes warm water out of kind of relatively cool water from the aquifer. And same thing, we can help to use that water to cool the campus as well. And so Ray Hall was that first building. Student Success Center is now connected, and we're going through studies now to connect all of our existing buildings to that same open loop geo exchange. Net zero water, we kind of did a similar thing. We set up a sustainable water plan for the campus. So trying to figure out how do we make sure that we don't use more water than what falls on that campus in a given year. And in Bend, it's a relatively dry climate. That's a challenge in itself. So trying to plant a native landscape for most of it, but then also students really want to have some grass to roll in occasionally. And so we want to have that oval green that you see at the bottom of our campus. And we'll also have a bowstring green that goes up and down the innovation district. So we have some focused areas that are intended to be grass long-term, while the rest of the campus really fits that native landscape palette, specifically working with our HERS lab, focused on plants that are specifically from a very narrow area at that elevation in Bend. Net zero water is still a pretty big challenge though. In order to achieve some of those goals, we're going to have to partner significantly with City of Bend probably, and Oregon Department of Water Resources and DEQ to set up, to kind of put together the infrastructure for pulling that off.
Wow.
And so then net zero waste is the most difficult one.
I would assume so.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of set up plans for the first two. Net zero waste, you really have to reach upstream in the overall supply chain and start having things delivered to you with less material on them, and then work through the behavioral habits of all the people on campus. That's a lot of humans, to make better decisions about how they dispose of that waste, and then set up your streams of waste to go to the right places once they're like leaving the campus to get recycled correctly. And so that's the most difficult one.
Well, pretty ambitious, much less, having to build a whole campus.
Right. Yeah, and then build the campus while we're at it.
Is there any precedent for other universities trying to do a triple net zero?
I don't know of any others that have highlighted triple net zero goal, but it could just be my lack of knowledge. I think a lot of universities are chasing sustainability goals. In some states, their sustainability goals are tied to reducing their carbon footprints. In some states, their sustainability goals are just trying to maximize the highest efficiency they can get to with the most efficient use of capital. It's easy to overbuild some of these systems, and so trying to get that balance right is important, especially for universities with a relatively limited budget.
Wow. So there's a lot going on, and with that, there's probably a lot of confusion as well. And I would love to hear from each of you, what is a misconception that you may hear within the community that you'd love to have a chance to just breathe life into and have a little conversation about, of, OSU is integrating with the city, how they're attuned to our growth issues, or whatever it might be. Is there kind of a sore subject that you're just like, I wish I could speak more into this?
I think I can't think of any one single topic, but as Bend has grown, I think generating awareness about OSU-Cascades has gotten harder and harder. And so I think the onus is on us to do more work to communicate out about, the stories that Jared is telling around the, those triple net zero goals. So I think it's that. It's primarily around awareness.
Yeah. Has the engagement and awareness that was here 10, 15 years ago about, and there was some naysayers, obviously, about the location and should Oregon or Bend really have a four-year university. There was a lot of, teeth gnashing about that. But I think we're pretty unanimous in the fact that Bend now appreciates and wants a four-year university. But is the support still behind you, or is it now just assumed that it's here and it doesn't need our support?
No, I think the support is, it's kind of embedded in our history. It's really integrated into almost everything we do. Mm-hmm. It's really important moving forward. OSU-Cascades was founded because of, this community desire for a university. We still experience that really strongly. I think some of the support has been incredible when you look at some of the buildings which have required a donor match. There's some type of a gift component, and on other university campuses, that's often alumni, who are giving. And in our case, it's not alumni; it's community members who are coming forth. And we see when we host events on campus, mm-hmm. We had an open house where Jared and his team led van tours around the remediation area, and we toured people through buildings. The comments that we heard as people left were, "That's amazing! I've never seen that before." We have a monthly community tour program, and we've had about, 175, 200 people. We just started it last year, and we've had, nearly 200 people come through on those tours. There's a classroom portion where they learn about the history of the campus, and then a walking or a van tour, depending on the state of the construction outside. And we'll often hear, I didn't know that, how amazing that, that's happening right in our backyard. So awareness is growing, and I think that appreciation for what the community has made happen, it is growing too.
Yeah, it's not Oregon State wanting to plop a four-year university on Bend. It was very much a passionate project by a lot of people that wanted to make that happen over the last few decades.
Yeah.
One of the things that's been talked a lot about is the Innovation District. Would either of you mind kind of explaining what that Innovation District is and why it's so unique compared to a lot of other universities?
Yeah, happy to. So maybe I'll back up a little bit. In 2022, the legislature came forward with support for the Innovation District to start. So they gave OSU $10 million to start the remediation project that OSU added to that to come up with the total funding to remediate a section of the land and to put infrastructure in there and get the overall process going. The thing that that really we've been focusing on here is taking the things that OSU already does, the programs that we already have, and tying them into places of strength in the overall economic marketplace of Central Oregon, and then Oregon overall. And so focusing on things like kinesiology or DPT, or doctorate of physical therapy, or energy systems engineering. And the Innovation District is a place, so 24 acres, clean land, remediated now. We're working on building buildings there over the next 3 to 5 years and working with master developers to do that. It's a place where faculty, staff, students, and then private industry can come together. I think Snowplanks is a great example of that. So imagine DPT students having their clinical time in the innovation district on the campus, and outside entities have their physical therapy clinics there where students can come do their clinical time. Or imagine companies who are trying to make motors or generators more efficient, and our energy systems engineering students are doing internships in those offices where those companies are doing that work. And so it's OSU researchers or OSU students, interns working with those programs. And maybe some of those individual companies actually say, we have employees here who have a bachelor's degree in biotech or something like that, some bioengineering, and they say, well, they really want a master's. They're already on our campus. They can start taking classes to get their master's degree. And so there's all these places where these programs can tie together with private industry, and where private industry can benefit, and students and OSU can benefit. And then overall, the economic outcome from that is that the community benefits as well.
What I'd love to do is, talk about a little bit, well, we've gotten into it so much, but just kind of that intersection and relationship between Oregon State University and what it means to be a Bend citizen, and where that interaction lies. We've talked about several other stories, but is there anything else that might help tell a story for what an average citizen, whether they're retired or have a young family, how they're going to interact with Oregon State University and how it changes their life and within the community?
I think one of the great things about Oregon State University is that it's a land grant university, meaning it was formed to serve the community that surrounds it. And so,
how is that different than some other universities? Let's dive into that before I go too much further, because that's a new term to me.
So it's as basically when you come to Oregon State University as an employee, it's understood, it's part of your job description that you're there not only to teach or to fulfill your job, but you're also there in service for the community. So oftentimes, faculty research, that research will address a problem in the community or the state. That Oregon State University is here to benefit Oregon.
So it's in your charter is to benefit the community in which it's located.
Yeah. And so I think all of us as individuals and as a university campus, we take that very seriously, and that's why the community engagement is so important and natural to what we do. As families and businesses and individuals in the area, there are probably, and particularly as we grow, there are lots of ways that they can and will be able to kind of intersect with the community. We started a couple of years ago offering a summer academy. So it's basically a summer camp for high school students, sophomores through juniors, and the students get to take a track. It might be in kinesiology, it might be in outdoor products, and they get to work with our faculty and then have some fun too, and sleep in the dorm we have a day program also, but they get to experience college life as high school students. We have lectures, almost monthly science pubs where we'll attract over 100 people each month to hear a researcher either from OSU-Cascades or from the main campus talk about healthy aging, or last month it was wildlife crossings under and over 97. So I think that's a kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but I think as time goes on, no matter what your age or interest, there will be a way to intersect with the campus.
Well, those are all great stories. And yeah, I mean, if I were to try to, oversimplify why OSU's important to our community, I don't think there's a simple answer. I think it's all those and more.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we all might be taking for granted, but hopefully, I assume that most people are going to cross paths with a lot of important OSU elements in their life.
Yeah.
Just like, Central Oregon Community College, even before OSU was at the level it is now, you couldn't cross a path with someone in Bend that didn't have a COCC story, whether it was a class that they took as an adult, or something that their child took, or that their father or mother taught at, or, like all lines went through COCC. And now the fact that we have OSU as strong as it is and growing, I think that, the amount of things that higher education can affect in our community is amazing, and it's something that we shouldn't take for granted.
Yeah.
I feel pretty grateful and humbled the fact that we have it here.
Yeah.
What do you see as kind of like, stepping out of your roles at OSU a little bit, what do you see as kind of the biggest challenges that we collectively face as citizens of our community? And perhaps is there an intersection of kind of where OSU may help meet that challenge? Whether that be housing or growth or inequality, is there anything on top of mind that like you really think that is a big challenge to our community, but yet there's an intersection where OSU might be meeting that challenge?
Well, I think not only facing our community, but facing the country is the challenge around the perception of higher education. That over the last, 4 or 5 years, that there have been more and more questions around the value of a college degree. And certainly a college degree isn't for everyone. There are many paths to success. It's been proven that with a college degree, you can earn about $1 million more over your career than with just a high school diploma. And so I think I think the onus is on universities to really help the public understand the value of a degree. And we've taken some steps to address that. One is a program called Cascades Edge, where right from a student's very first term, they'll get career preparation, making sure are they embarking on the right degree for them? Are they do they have an internship in mind? Is their resume ready? So at each stage in their academic career, they get more intense career preparation along the way. But that may not have been quite addressing your question. I think that is one of the challenges.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it was very insightful, and I think kind of what is the role of university, financially, but also kind of developmentally for those people as well. And I think that the fact that we even get to have that conversation here locally is fortunate.
Yeah.
And Jared, is there anything top of mind?
Well, I was going to mention two things. One, a question or so ago, you had asked about challenges and clarifying things in the community. And one of the things that I hear over and over again is the landfill on fire? and so
there's always been an urban myth about fires in the pumice myth.
So for me and my role, that's like what comes to the top of my list. Clarifying that the landfill is not on fire.
Oh, come on, that's too boring.
Yeah, right. It's way more fun to talk about it. But I mean, that said, the cleanup that we're doing, I don't think just as most people in the community didn't realize that there was a giant hole in the ground over in that area.
Yeah, it was all fenced off. You couldn't see it.
Yeah, and folks who had been here for decades kind of knew, well, yeah, that's where the landfill is. It's just over there. As we've been going through the waste excavation on that, the landfill is definitely not on fire, but it's absolutely hot. And so one of the reasons why folks would think it's on fire is because throughout the winter, moisture would creep down throughout parts of it, and then steam would come out.
Yeah.
And so that's like what folks would see, and they go, I think the landfill's on fire.
Yeah.
So it's not on fire. But that said, as we've been going through that excavation and pulling the waste out and remediating the landfill, we've definitely seen that the vast majority, and we're moving hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of waste. And as we're doing that, we're keeping it all on site. And so as we've excavated that waste, we found that the vast majority of that is about 100 degrees, 120 degrees. So it's hot. Wow. It's definitely a warm cup of water, right?
Yeah.
But we pulled out probably 3 truckloads that were like 400 degrees, and those were sitting next to about 50,000 cubic yards of tires.
Wow.
And so while the answer is very clearly the landfill is not on fire,
Yeah.
there's also this very clear risk that exists in the area. And I think one of the things that makes me feel good about the things that I do here every day, it makes me happy to go home to my children and tell them about my job, is the cleanup that we're doing on that site. And whether it was 10 years on the line or 50 years on the line, at some point in time, that would have affected the community. It doesn't pose a risk tomorrow, but it's absolutely a risk that would have happened to the community at some point in time.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that we've kind of glossed over. The fact, like, to quantify this, how much waste or how deep was the waste? Like, how big of a landfill were you working with there when you started?
Well, if you go back to the history of the campus, go way back to the 1950s roughly, that whole site was logged. And so then they started to dig pumice out. So they would use pumice for road beds and for building materials around the area. And so then as they got kind of all the easy pumice out or got to the quantities they needed, they were just left with big holes in the ground. And so those holes in the ground are not of a uniform shape. They, for our campus, they vary between 5 feet and like 80 feet.
Okay.
And so the giant hole that was in the ground for the pumice mine is there because they were mining out the pumice. The hole that some folks might have known is a great visual of that. It's a big 100-foot hole in the ground. So then that was filled with waste. And then when they reached the kind of standard surface, they actually went above that another 30 feet. And so there's some places where we excavated 30 feet of waste, and some places where we excavated nearly 80 feet of waste.
Oh my goodness.
And so, kind of pulling all that out, and then we sort it, and we're able to actually reclaim soil from that and use it to fill in part of the pumice mine. And then we're able to re-landfill all that using modern standards and techniques in the northwest corner of the campus. So we keep all of that on site.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't see the trucks ripping around town with millions of cubic feet of waste. So you're just rehoming it and
we're talking the remediation of the campus is more than 30,000 truckloads of waste. Like if you were going to go take this over to not landfill, if that was the way that you went about cleaning this up, it would be like 30,000 trucks of waste going through town. For us, we're able to keep it all on site there and do it all in one place.
Unbelievable. So now, if I remember right, and I'm sure I'm not accurate on this, that there was what, $40 or $50 million of remediation on the site, or is it north of that?
We're probably just a little bit north of that.
Okay.
So,
because I remember they put the value of the land at about, I think it was what, 40, if I remember the headlines, 40 some million dollars, and they gave it to the university for $1 because it was approximately equivalent to the amount of remediation that it took.
Yeah, and that's actually about how things have worked out. So we've, right now we are on track. If you took away all the state support we've gotten, just took the flat value of remediating that land and then developing it with infrastructure. It's right at about the market value, or maybe just under the market value to buy that land if it was clean and had infrastructure on it. So I think we're able to do this work, and we're doing it at a price point that is cost effective for the citizens. And so we're on track to continue that pathway.
Okay, and for any young person that's trying to imagine what this is, you're spoiled even in having the thought and the ability to go to a place like this. It's 20 miles from some amazing skiing up at Mount Bachelor. We've got rivers within a couple miles. You're walkable to all kinds of dining and shopping and trail systems, and it's just, I mean, this location is probably one of the most amazing locations that you could ever ask for.
It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, 10 minutes to incredible mountain biking, 5 minutes to floating the river, 20 minutes to incredible snowboarding. The resources that are around this area, the natural resources, let alone the people that are in the region. I think working through the Innovation District work that we've been doing over the course of the past couple of years has really informed me that Bend is on the leading edge of an innovation culture where a number of folks from the West Coast have decided to move here from lots of different places, and they've been successful in their previous lives and decided, I want to be there. Mm-hmm. And then as they come together, not only, maybe to Christine's point, they're all willing to lend a hand and to support the community, and to see somebody who's maybe starting off in the area where they have knowledge and say, oh yeah, I'll help you. Let's figure this out and we'll get you set up. It's been an incredible education for me in seeing the way those folks come together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been fun to see all the different iterations of what Bend is, from logging to tourism to breweries to outdoor recreation to a more diverse economy to now here we are talking about all the implications of a vibrant four-year university that has private public interface. I think it's a big pillar of what Bend is, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future.
Incredible.
So I thank you both for being here today. I think this is a really neat example that there's very few people in Bend that just have a job. You know, on one shoulder it's their job, and on the other shoulder they're bearing the responsibility of trying to make Bend a better place. And I think what you both are doing is at the core of that. So thanks for joining me today.
Thanks.
Thank you.